distance, look at Big John, the John Hancock Center. That's the fourth tallest building in the city, 1,127 feet, 100 stories. Bruce Graham, Dr. Fazl Khan for Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, 1969. Now that is the style known as modernism. You were looking at 46,000 tons of steel, every bit of holding the building up. There's not a whit of decoration on that building because modernism is about pure form. To a modernist, decoration, that's bourgeois, superfluous. Get it out of there altogether. You celebrate structure. Postmodern Art Deco style of NBC Tower on our right, 1989, Adrian Smith, Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. Harken back to the Art Deco 1930s, and if you know the GE building at Rockefeller Center in New York, you can see that was the inspiration. And directly ahead of us, the one and only Wrigley Building, commissioned by chewing gum king William Wrigley Jr. 1921. Graham Anderson, Props and White, successor from the Daniel Burnham, did the work. Now that is the Beaux-Arts or City Beautiful style of the 1893 World's Fair. As a young man, William Wrigley had attended Burnham's Fair. He never forgot it, so he brought that elegance downtown. The Spanish Renaissance was the influence for that clock tower. It is modeled on the 11th century Giralda Tower in Seville in Spain. And to your right, like a Gothic cathedral, Tribune Tower, home to the Chicago Tribune newspaper. 1922, Colonel Robert McCormick, publisher of the trip, puts up $100,000. International Design Contest for the most beautiful office building in the world. Howells and Hood of New York winning, inspired by the Gothic cathedrals of France and Belgium in that design. The new second tallest building in Chicago is on our right, completed 2008, Trump International Hotel and Tower. New York financier and fading television star Donald Trump blesses us, if you will, with a 92-story, 1,125-foot building. Now, although it is 2 feet shorter than the John Hancock Center, this building is listed as taller. How is that possible? Simply the spire on the roof. The Council on Tall Buildings in the Urban Habitat, which is not a Monty Python comedy sketch. That's the group that gives out the tallest building in the world award. They count spires as height. So when you add in the spire, the Trump building can claim to be 1,362 feet. Very ornate and beautiful building in this Beaux-Arts tradition, the Jewelers Building of 1926 on our left, inspired by a 15th century Italian monastery, the Certosa de Pavia, but built here for the diamond trade. Originally, you would drive your Model T filled with diamonds directly into the basement. Your car was lifted by elevator to your floor. You could then retrieve your diamonds and run through that building like a happy squirrel with a sack of nuts. You felt very safe. Safety was an issue. This was the height of Prohibition. Alcohol was illegal, but Chicago was never really dry. There was a speakeasy right below the Dome, where you could find a drink during Prohibition. Actually, the bootlegger Al Capone used to like to hang out there. So basically, like bootleggers upstairs and diamond dealers downstairs, not a good match, hence the elevator. Ludwig Mies van der Rohe, father of modernism's final American commission on our right, the 1971 IBM building. I know you know Mies van der Rohe's famous expression, less is more. Again, modernism is called minimalism because once you do away with any decoration on the building, all you really need, skeleton, skin, and space, that's it. Skeleton the frame, skin the glass curtain wall. More often than not a rectangular design, unless perhaps you are a rebel modernist like Bertrand Goldberg, doing the Marina City Towers in a circular fashion in the 1960s, earning them the nickname the Corn Cob Towers. And right here you are looking at the student rejecting the teacher. Bertrand Goldberg had studied with Mies van der Rohe, but he rejected boxes as psychological slums, believing a circle would bring people together. You will note that that is a complete city, docking for boats. Inside you will find 4 restaurants, a bowling alley, a swimming pool, a bank, office space, parking, and your living space upstairs. You see, it was the height of the 1960s when Bertrand Goldberg did Marina City. And at that time, the middle class was abandoning the city for the suburbs. Well, there is a problem there. Without a strong middle class, my friends, you will never have a great city. And Goldberg knew many people would love to live in the heart of the city near their work if you could offer 24-hour urban living. The river being industrial, he gave you that option at home. International School of Modernism, the Heinz Building, Bruce Graham, Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, 1987. In a nutshell, the International School of Modernist movement was one in which the designers felt, let's just do away with history. We'll just take the same plastic steel box and keep repeating ourselves around the globe. Step back in the time to 1913, the red brick building with a clock tower on the right is the Reed Murdoch Center by George Niemans. Niemans associated with the Prairie School of Architecture. Prairie School architects evoke our flat Midwestern landscape. Their designs tend to hug the horizon, as we find here balanced by the clock tower. You will notice the building is asymmetrical. It misses a 5th bay on this left-hand end. Yeah, 5 on the right, only 4 on the left. There was a bay on this end until 1926. That bay had to go out when the bridge above your heads was coming in. When they began widening the South Street for the coming bridge, it turned out the building was a little bit in the way. It had been there for 13 years. Changed their plans and go around the corner. Not in Chicago, forget about it. It's in the way of progress, so they basically plowed through a 20-foot building for the widening of the street. A 1912 coffee warehouse on our right, renovated in the mid-80s, is one of the last true Chicago school buildings on the river. So hallmarks of the first Chicago skyscrapers. Number one, that internal frame to support the weight. That leads you to number two, the Chicago-style window, that wide window that let in a lot of light. A third element of the skyscraper you cannot see, but it is so important, caissons. Do you know what caissons are? They're the box-like structures, the posts that you anchor a building with, and you might have to drive them down 65 feet in Chicago to hit something solid, hardpan, oxidized clay. To our right, one of the grandest examples of Art Deco, the Chicago Merchandise Mart. Graham Anderson, Props and White, 1930. Art Deco actually began with an exhibition in Paris, France, 1925, became the style of the 30s. Now, you recognize Art Deco buildings. They always have this massive geometric form, but they always have a very angular, streamlined facade. At over 4 million square feet of rentable space, you are looking at the largest commercial building on the planet Earth today. Those heads along the bank are some of the early merchant princes of Chicago. And it was the Marshall Field department store, once great retailer, who put up $32 million in 1930 for that to be a wholesale market. A dream unrealized because of the Great Economic Depression. 1945, the Field Company had to let that building go for back taxes. Fortunately, Mr. Joseph P. Kennedy picked it up. Good thing, too. Father of our late President and Senators, Joe Kennedy was a man of action. He got things done. And realizing 96 acres of inside space, he pretty much saved that building by bringing in the furniture design industry, who have showrooms throughout today. Now, ladies